Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah, that's me. How you doing? Welcome. Geez, I wonder if anything happened since last we spoke. God almighty. Jeez. Oh, Lord. So it wasn't enough. McConnell. Then we get the effing Supreme Court. And it was really upsetting day for us news junkies. No doubt about it. So, before we jump into all of that, I want to just give us a little breath, if you don't mind, and respond to something that I opined about yesterday, and I found the answer to, and it's just a nice, easy way to slip into this hellish news day from yesterday that we have to dissect, inspect, and generally commiserate about. This is, I should note, as I often do, February 29th. I don't do that as often as I do all other dates because, as we know, it only comes 4 times a year. And I did ask yesterday, I wonder where and how the world figured that out, that we needed that one day every once in a while, and how did we all agree to it? And then, lo and behold, I found out. There are differences in some countries, but the reality is well, what you learn in school is it takes 365 days for the Earth to make its full trip around the sun, hence a year. But in fact, it's not just 365 days, it's 365 days, 6 hours and 9 minutes and 9 seconds. That's how much time it takes the Earth to go around the sun, creating what we call then a year after that full rotation. And if we didn't do anything about changing the calendar, little by little, those extra hours would keep adding up, and all of a sudden, spring would be in summer would be, the seasons would start shifting. So there had to be a way to sort of get rid of that surplus, 6 hours, 9 minutes, and 9 seconds. And so it's unbelievable to me, but Julius Caesar, ladies and gentlemen, how far back did they understand this stuff? At least Julius Caesar mandated leap days in 46 BC. And other parts of the world have done different things. The Chinese calendar, which we know is different, adds a leap month after a certain, never mind, you don't care about all this stuff. The Soviet Union, obviously, being the Soviet Union under Stalin, introduced February 29th and 30th. That lasted for 2 years. And what it also did is eliminated weekends in the Soviet Union. You can't make it up. So there's been various reasons. So anyway, it is leap day. And also leap years are in this country coincide with presidential election years, in case you hadn't noted that, which I must say I had never done. So there you have it. And the one other little funny thing that I found from an article is that there was a French newspaper that was founded in 1980, a leap year, and its sole purpose is to put out the paper just on leap day. And they've done it. So there have been 11 editions before today's, and their 12th will have come out. And today, that French newspaper will publish the solution to its 2020 crossword puzzle. All right, that's enough for the frivolity. That's the only thing I could find that might keep us from, hey, God. Well, I happen to be watching, which I don't usually, MSNBC at, I think it was 5 or 4, I don't know when it was, but I had heard that Nicole Wallace was back. She had taken a 3-month maternity leave, and she is my favorite host of any of these cable shows. I just find her extremely bright, and I just like the way her head works, and I like her. These subjective reasons that you like a certain person on radio or TV and not somebody else. So I see that she's going to have Judge Luttig on. And he is the, extremely conservative jurist who appeared before the January 6th Commission to say that Donald Trump was a clear and present danger to the democracy of the United States of America. That's one thing coming from me, who's been saying it for years. It's another thing coming from this guy who sits atop all of the most, what's a word? See? Oh, I'm having a Joe Biden moment. Just revered, will do, revered conservative jurists. And he was on the show, and then bang, the news broke. While he's sitting there, he finds out, as we're finding out, anyone watching that particular moment, that the Supreme Court has astonishingly decided that it is, it's going to hear that case where Trump says that presidents have immunity from everything and anything, and even after they've left office. Now, this was a case and an idea so preposterous that the opinion written by the appeals court on it was considered to be just brilliant, slam dunk repudiation of that claim. And the assumption among all, almost, folks was that the court would just let it stand, would not bother taking the case, since the appeals court nailed the decision and there was no other possible decision to be had. And many of us, I didn't say anything because I just felt like even talking about it was, gonna screw things up. I've been wondering why the court hasn't moved. I wanted them to just say very quickly, nah, this is ridiculous. It's a waste of our time. We're not taking this case. And they didn't. And then they didn't. And then they didn't. And then they didn't. And then amazingly, they did. And in so doing, they have given Donald Trump a beautiful gift. They have shown him that his obvious tactic to avoid ever having to be brought to justice, which is, of course, delaying in any way that his attorneys can delay. So we get to the point where a court will be really uncomfortable with having the Republican nominee for president sitting at the defendant table in a criminal case. And so he'll have pulled it off. He'll have delayed until the election. And the only other thing he needs is a win. And then if he wins, all of it goes away. All of it. And our democracy too. That the Supreme Court allowed this to happen is just mind-blowing to me. It truly is. And I've heard all kinds of, well, they might have wanted and this and that. But what they have done is create a calendar. And Ludwig was, you could tell, was so gobsmacked he could hardly speak. And anyone who's ever seen him knows that he speaks very slowly because he's deliberative. And he, after getting his feet back on the ground, said he thinks that Jack Smith's case ain't going to get heard this year. This is a guy who has argued before the Supreme Court a gazillion times. He knows how the court works. He knows how it thinks institutionally. And he said by setting even the date that they've set to hear Trump's attorneys make these ludicrous arguments before them, that is only the first step, right? Then they have to meet and deliberate, and that's months and months and months away as well. They have to form an opinion and create that opinion. All of it unnecessary because the appeals court slam dunked the opinion in the case. Who are totally fine with a dictator named Donald Trump. Now, we know one of them for sure, Thomas. But I think you can definitely throw in Alito. This is the court that Donald Trump made. This is the court that Mitch McConnell made. And this is why when people say, Trump, Biden, Bush, Gore, there's not any difference between them. They're all corrupt. The system doesn't work. It doesn't matter. Those people are fools. Fools. Because it does matter. And we're going to live with this god-awful court. Well, I will for the rest of my life. It'll be a generation easily before this court is gone. So that's my first big sigh. I want to tell you something. You know, I'm doing not just the show, but I'm doing the technological aspects of the show now too. Although I had said that taking calls would be like something that's going to take me a long time to learn. But you know what? I'm thinking I'm going to get there a lot faster than I thought. And so I must say, right at this moment, I am sitting here all by myself, and I am willing to try. If any of you have something you want to say on these momentous things that have occurred, if anyone wants to call, I'm going to try to take that call. Okay? And we'll see if we can, get back to what always had been and was. So we can do that. I just want to add that I think the greatest thing that was said about McConnell's leave taking was written by the comedian op-ed writer at the Washington Post, uh, Alexand, I think it's Alexandria Petrie, right? Or Petrie. And she says this in part. McConnell noted that he had already been offered a number of positions in the private sector once he finishes his regular term. And they include sitting in a lifeguard chair peacefully while people struggle and call for help, or another job, who wouldn't like this job, just parked on an expressway at rush hour in the path of emergency vehicles. That is another possibility for Mitch McConnell in his retirement. Well, I got me a caller, and let's see what happens. Hi.
Lynn, is it working?
It's working.
Can you hear me?
You bet I can.
Hey, it's Ray from Lawrenceville.
Hi, Ray.
Hey, congratulations on running this single-handed. I'm proud of you.
I am too. So there I am.
Good for you. Good for you. I'm also thrilled to have been your first caller, your independent caller. So that's kind of cool.
Yes, you are.
Hey, listen. Now that you're freeing yourself from the shackles of dependency, would you consider running it longer than an hour so that if you do get on a deep run, you don't have to cut it short?
Well, yes. I mean, that's always a possibility. Sure. I mean, if we had something good going.
Sometimes you and especially you and your sister will start something at 10:53, and I'm like, oh, I really want to. That's why bother, right?
Well, it's true. I'm such a creature of broadcasting, in which you start on the hour, you end on the hour. That's just the way I've been trained. But you're absolutely right.
Sure.
There is nothing whatsoever that keeps me having to have those kinds of restrictions.
You no longer have a handler who's got a stopwatch on you, so that's great.
Yeah, it is.
Well, listen. Yeah, listen. I'm gonna hang up because I'm sure there are other callers who'd like to come in and congratulate you as well. But we're out here listening.
Well, thank you, Ray. It means a lot to me. Thanks so
Certainly.
much. Goodbye.
Certainly. Stay safe.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Yeah, you too. Stay safe. Good God. Stay safe. How are we going to do that? There was one woman, I have to say, because as I was watching Nicole Wallace and Ludwig, and they called in all of their big guns that they talked to about these legal matters. I was listening to these people who really know. I think almost every one of them had clerked at one time at the Supreme Court. They've argued in front of the Supreme Court, and they were one in particular, and it was a woman, because I don't think a man would admit to it. I don't know. That's just a thing. She said, I find this terrifying. She talked about all the reasons it's terrifying. I think her name is Rubin. I'm not quite remembering who she is. And she pointed out that what the Supreme Court did yesterday means that that awful Trump appointed judge overseeing the Mar-a-Lago case, where he stole government property, top secret, classified government property, and was hoarding it, and when asked by the government to give it back, refused. And then finally, with all pressure possible being put on him, gave some of it back. Who the hell knows? That case, which would land anybody else in jail very quickly, is now, I would have to say, paused also until the end of this next presidential election, because that judge has been happily playing into Trump's delay game. And now she has the Supreme Court saying, well, I think we should, we need to hear this claim that a president can blow away, assassinate anyone he doesn't like, weaponize every, we need to hear this. And she'll now be able to say, hey, I can't proceed with this case until we have a definitive ruling from the Supreme Court as to whether or not Mr. Trump enjoys immunity and thus can commit any crime he wants to with no consequence. So, Jack Smith's case for inciting insurrection, the case in Mar-a-Lago for stealing top secret documents, those are now on hold for a well into the summer, late summer. Then we're just 3 months from the election. You know the delaying tactic in Atlanta to keep Trump and all those others who mightily tried with fake electors and threatening phone calls to secretaries of state to find votes for Trump. That whole case is now stalled because I guess our legal system deems it more important to know at what date the district attorney began a romantic relationship with another prosecutor on the same side, doing the same work, and somehow that date has been said to be extremely meaningful. It is not at all. And that case, because it is so complicated, given all of the defendants in it, was always going to be a case that took a long, long time. So that one's not going to be done. Okay, that's 3 of the 4 big cases he's managed now with the help of our ludicrously glacier-like legal system to stall, fend off. And so all that's left is seemingly the least important case, and that has to do with him illegally paying hush money to keep his affair with a porn star secret as he campaigned for his first, and God help us, hopefully his last time in the White House. So that trial will begin, come hell or high water, next month, which is just a day away. Makes it feel any better. It'll start in about 3 weeks. And at least that is still there. But that is, and what's the difference? What do you note about the difference here? That is not a federal case. That is a case brought by the DA in New York City. And Trump wasn't able to pack those courts with his people. But the federal judiciary, with Mitch McConnell doing the heavy lifting for him, oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that really is just astonishing. I mean, people are trying to figure out what do you imagine? Will anyone ever spill the beans about what the hell this Roberts court, who was arguing what, how they had enough muscle to get the court to do this thing that is totally unnecessary? And the only thing I saw that I thought made any sense at all, I mean, because all we're left to do is just try to make things up. Well, this could have happened, that could have happened. It's enough to make all of us into conspiracy theorists, right? But it could be that the Supreme Court, what a misnomer, the Supreme Court, after hearing the case brought when the Supreme Court of Colorado decided that Donald Trump, being a traitor to this country, could not be on the ballot, could not legally, constitutionally hold office again in this country. And it's interesting how the Supreme Court moved rather quickly in that one, did it not? So it can jump when it wants to, and it can delay when it wants to. So they already heard the arguments. Remember, I called the show off that day because I thought it was such a consequential Supreme Court hearing, and I thought we all should witness this historic event. And it was quite clear, even to those of us who don't have legal degrees, that the court was going to put the kibosh on Colorado's Supreme Court and allow Donald Trump on the ballot. So some people are wondering if, having clearly shown they're going to give Trump another gift in that case, for the optics of it, given that most Americans think they are as corrupted a court as we have ever had, and because they're concerned about that they may have wanted to be able to have a ruling that looks like it goes against Trump. And what would that ruling be? Well, yeah, the ludicrous claim that they have now decided to take up, that he has immunity from anything. So that way, and you can figure, this one, whoever floated this idea, I think is probably right. So this way, the court can look, well, so balanced, right? So incredibly balanced. It'll find for Trump in one and against him in the other. And so how dare anybody suggest that they're in Trump's pocket? Let me catch up on your emails. Okay. Kurt writes, I heard one pundit speculate on why they took this case. Apparently, Trump has also made the immunity claim, yes, in the classified documents case in Florida. By taking this case, the Supreme Court is heading off the potential conflict that would be created if the Florida court, taking a different position than the DC court, already took on immunity. Well, yeah, because it is quite possible that that court, which is that awful woman, what's her name, Cannon, who has done everything she can do to help Trump. One can see her possibly. She was doing everything she could. I don't know, but I think that's bull. That's bull too. That's the court just grasping at straws, trying. I don't know. Only they know how bad things are at that court. As bad as I'm sure they've ever been. In that you've got literal traitors sitting on the court. And I'm sure that's how they are viewed by some other members of the court. God. Barbara has sent this. Representative Dan Goldman says to Lawrence O'Donnell, or he's going to, what he says is possibly the greatest ethical lapse from Supreme Court justice in history. And that is, this is a big shock. Clarence Thomas's refusal to recuse himself from this immunity case, after it is well known that Thomas's wife was even called before the January 6th committee investigating that coup attempt on January 6th because she was actively involved in it. I cannot believe. This is again an indicator of how awful and corrupted this court has become, thanks to Mitch McConnell. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, you fuck. By the way, who's going to replace him? I'll tell you who's going to replace him. It will be about the most horrific neo-fascist member of the Senate you can imagine. Now, that gives us a lot of possibilities. But I think when people say it's going to be John Thune or John this or John that, there's 3 guys named John, I'm not so sure, even though they have all kissed Trump's ring already. I am terrified that Trump now, we know he owns the House of Representatives, and that part of our legislative branch is now paralyzed, incapable of doing anything, right? And with McConnell's exit, Trump wins again. That's assuming he wins the presidency. But he wins again. Because when McConnell goes in January, one can only imagine who Trump, and it will be Trump, who will anoint the head of the Senate, assuming the Republicans regain control of the Senate. And that is why this election, they've got a good shot at it this time, given the stupidity of the American people. It's why, for the first time, I'm giving money to Democratic senatorial candidates in rough places. Sherrod Brown in Ohio, blanking on Tester. If we don't hold these guys and conceivably take the Senate back with the biggest voter turnout in American history, if there is not that, something akin to, numbers never before seen, that 80%, 85% of registered Democrats went to the polls. That's what we've got to pull off. Because otherwise you're looking at, well, I needn't repeat myself ad nauseum, huh? But God help us. God help us. So I can't believe I said I wanted to take calls. I gotta practice this. I want to take calls and you guys aren't calling me? Jesus. I mean, I've got 2 different computers in front of me. I'm dealing with a mouse, a this, a that. I'm toggling back and forth between different tabs. I've got a Zoom to watch, a YouTube Studio to watch. I've got and as you know, I am not technologically inclined. I'm a bit of a joke in terms of my inability to comprehend this stuff. So before I leave you for the rest of this week, it's Thursday, I need one more call at least. I don't know which one of you I'm deputizing. I don't care who the hell it is. I need you to call in because I need to do this one more time. Do we need the number? 412-200-5686. 412-200-5686, and you can talk to me. Or you can just call up and say, there, I called, and you could hang up. I don't care. I'm easy. Oh, here's Milton. Yeah, Milt writes, the most egregious smack in the face is that Jack Smith asked the Supreme Court to rule on this presidential immunity crap back in December. He foresaw that Trump's defense would bring up immunity later, and he wanted to get a ruling from the Supreme Court on it as soon as possible to avoid exactly what we are seeing now. He did ask, and the Supreme Court said no. They didn't want to accept. Incredible. Just incredible. Huh. Well, I did get a little thing here that said for a moment that I suppose that's going okay, that something was unstable. Oh, someone is calling. Yes, God bless you. All right, I'm bringing you in. Howdy. There you are. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank
Hey,
you. Yeah.
I think these Supreme Court justices, they're waiting to see if Biden or Trump gets in there. So if Trump gets in there, they can clear him. And then if Biden gets in there, then they say no, because they don't want him to have all that power.
Oh,
not that I think Trump's going to get in there. I really think this is going to be a blowout. If you look at the numbers deep, all the numbers, and I'm not big on the numbers, but the day of the election, you see the primaries, Trump's in Heartland. He's in trouble. He has to get those people that Haley got. He ain't going to get them. They don't like him. So he can't win without them. Biden just has to really pull off a little more than what he did last time, which I don't think that's going to be a problem. You got too many issues on it. This is going to be fun. I'm going to love it. They're going to get their asses kicked and their clocks cleaned. And that's what's going to happen, because you take people's freedoms away. They don't like it. They're in trouble. They are in trouble. They could act. They could play this out. They could wait till after the election to have those trials, whatever. One thing for sure, Biden will be president of the United States. Kamala Harris will be the vice president. That's just the way it's going to be.
Well,
that's all I got to say.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for saying it.
Okay.
All right. Goodbye.
Yep. Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for the call. Yes. I don't. There's part of me. I just do not disagree with what you say about Trump can't win. But on the other hand, we know, we've unhappily learned that it doesn't matter to his crazed cult if he wins or not. They will accept nothing but a win. And so, if he loses, I ask you, can you imagine Donald Trump taking the stage at wherever his election night party is going to be and acknowledging that he has lost and wishing the winner all the best? Can you imagine that? Of course not, because it will not happen. Trump is not running to get into the White House as much as he's running from the law. And he will never let go of the only thing then he'd have left, and that is his mob. And so you could see, I think you will see, extreme trouble in the streets. and in our lives and in our institutions. And if ever we will need a Supreme Court up to the challenge of dealing with an America in such disarray and division, it will be then, and we will have this court with an obvious corrupted traitor on it, Clarence Thomas, and a few handmaidens as well. And you mention that, people don't appreciate so much of what this MAGA cult has brought on, and Donald Trump has brought on. Donald Trump got rid of Roe v. Wade by giving us this Supreme Court, and thus the Dobbs decision, and thus the Alabama Supreme Court's extraordinary ruling that a frozen embryo is a human being that should have all of the rights of any human being, except a pregnant woman, of course. And that the little frozen chambers therein are nurseries. Given the fact that the Dobbs decision helped Democrats win almost every election since it, right? The Georgia Supreme Court, or Alabama, who can tell? They're all the same to me. I'm sorry, Alabama. The Confederacy, that Confederate court. You see now the Republican Party just desperately trying to back away from what that court did, even though the Republican Party is filled to the gills with people who will continue to push those kinds of laws and rulings, certainly limiting women's ability to live freely. But they'll also come for the gays. They will come for us all, because you have this huge core of Christian nationalists, aka American fascists, that are in that party and that make up some of the scarier, most committed stormtroopers in that party. So I noted, in the good old days I would have chuckled, I'm beyond chuckling anymore, that there are two stories just sitting right next to each other in the New York Times today on page 16. And one is headlined, Alabama GOP scrambles to pass an IVF shield law. And it shows how even a totally Republican state is now, you see the legislature, because those guys want to, some of them might find themselves out of jobs because of this ruling. Supreme Courts don't have to worry about being out of jobs, right? Generally speaking. Although, no, some are elected. But so the Alabama GOP in the legislature is desperately trying to, put itself at arm's length from this ruling, which they know is just totally unpopular in the country by most voters. And then next to that is another story headlined thusly, Florida pauses bill to protect unborn child. So The Florida legislature has been happily pushing through a bill that would allow civil lawsuits over the death of a fetus, which means any woman having a miscarriage could be brought up on charges. And if that bill were to, get ahead and be passed, Florida would join, I got to tell you, about 12 other states that already allow this kind of litigation to protect zygotes. Women, not so much. So, I think you will see there is division in Trump land. You see it at work in the House of Representatives. You see it here, even in a red state like Alabama, with the legislature trying to get away from what their Supreme Court has said. So there are some who have gone along with the Trumps and the MAGA guys who are queasy. We also know they are cowards, and they care about power more than principle. They care about power above all. So, I gotta tell you, we gotta learn how to pace ourselves, don't we? Through this, through the next 9 months. This is going to be, as that woman said, truly terrifying. And I think if you're not, if you are like my caller who said, we're gonna lose, and you think that that's then the end of it. See, that's the problem. I think he's going to lose too. But we have an insurrection afoot, a coup attempt ongoing, and it is backed by easily, I would say, 1/3 of the population, which is not a small number. And my guess is that even if Biden wins by a lot, it ain't over, because Trump doesn't want to go to jail, which of course is where he belongs, and where so many of them do, where Clarence Thomas belongs. God. Well, I've said this before, I'm sorry. I repeat myself. I just think that I remember having an argument with a Christian, a Catholic, I think, in college, and I was saying how I found the idea of original sin, which I guess I really didn't even comprehend at the time. But I thought the idea of a baby being born somehow already guilty, somehow needing some kind of, I don't know. I thought this sort of negative view of humans was bizarre. And the idea even of heaven and hell having to be created, you'll forgive me for my, because people can't be assumed to be good and do right if they're not terrified of punishment if they don't. And this was all so alien to my sense of humanity. I thought, I mean, I don't know. People, I thought, would do good because it feels good to do good. People would shy away from being mean and awful and doing the wrong thing. Well, just because. Why would you want to cause harm? This is me, okay? And I must say that that is still me. I still don't get it, but now at least I see it. I see how many people, God, how many, cannot be trusted to do the right thing, to care about something beyond themselves, to see themselves as part of something greater, to do the right thing, not because you want to get rewarded or not punished, but because why would you not? And now I see that that was naive. And that if you look at human history, it seems the bad guys have so much sway, hold so much power, and they never stop. They never stop. And the good guys, just go on doing their thing until even they, with their rose-colored glasses and their happy Pollyanna-ish view that the world is, life is good. People are basically good. And it's only until things get like they've gotten here and now that the good people have got to wake up and pull themselves out of their complacency and their sense that, hey, look, it'll be okay. There's more of us than them. All that matters now is that we prove that mightily in November. And as I said, we see a voter turnout. I really think that each one of us should pledge to make sure one other person who normally doesn't vote does so, and obviously does so correctly. And that might mean we're going to have to work on some young people who still, understandably, by virtue of their age, don't quite get it. And if we have to work on some of the lefties, some of the third party types who fancy themselves principled, but who lose sight of the forest, right, for the trees. Anyway, it's going to be a long 2024. That's all I got to say. This has been a great pleasure being able to do this with you. I want to thank my my two callers for showing me I'm able. I'm sort of not totally. Now, someone's calling in now, but I'm sorry, you're too late. Too late, can't take you. I'm out of here. I am. I'm out of here. Sorry. Because I know I don't have to be finished exactly on time, but I actually do today. Okay. So thank you very, 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 very much for doing this, being here, helping me. And thanks for all of your input, written and verbal. And God, I hope too many shoes don't drop in the next 3 days so that I'm not in a state of total despair on Monday when next we speak. But you guys, you have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com.